You've landed on this video because, deep down, a part of you recognizes the profound unease of envisioning a future where you awaken to the stark realization that your existence has been misdirected. This isn't a sudden cataclysmic event. Rather, it's a gradual erosion, a slow, methodical dismantling of your true self, occurring incrementally, piece by piece. It manifests through every unspoken compromise you make, every untruth you utter to blend in, every inconvenient reality you choose to overlook simply to maintain a sense of security, until one morning your eyes open and the reflection staring back at you from the mirror is utterly unrecognizable. This isn't some preordained destiny. It's a discernible pattern, a trajectory you've unconsciously set for yourself. The philosopher Nietzsche, with his profound and often unsettling insights, foresaw this unfolding. Beneath his apparent fury and underlying bitterness lay a singular, piercing message. You will either assimilate these lessons now, or you will endure the consequences later. And crucially, if you are engaging with this content at this very moment, there remains a window of opportunity to alter that course. The inaugural profound insight is this: you were never truly instructed on the art of independent thought, but rather indoctrinated into the practice of unquestioning compliance. From the nascent stages of your life, you are systematically trained to conform, to adhere to prescribed norms. The directives are clear and concise. Elevate your hand when prompted, remain still in your designated seat, commit information to memory, and endlessly reiterate what has been presented. Not once during this formative period are you genuinely solicited for your own perspectives or original ideas. Instead, you are meticulously shown what to think, and more detrimentally, you are actively rewarded for merely echoing these pre-approved notions. Nietzsche posited that this pervasive system constituted the demise of the individual spirit, arguing that the collective, the amorphous crowd, doesn't seek your independent intellectual engagement. It merely demands your assent. Consequently, a vast majority of individuals mature into adulthood conflating blind obedience with genuine intelligence. They become exceptionally adept at simulating achievement, meticulously following established protocols, and diligently fulfilling societal expectations. However, in this process, they invariably relinquish their intrinsic capacity for critical inquiry. And when this vital faculty is lost, you don't merely forfeit your autonomy, you invariably lose your very essence. Authentic, uninhibited thought is inherently subversive. It poses a direct threat to established structures and prevailing orthodoxies. Yet Nietzsche articulated with crystalline clarity that an existence devoid of self-directed thought is not an authentic life at all. It is merely a theatrical performance within the narrative crafted by someone else. And by the time most individuals awaken to the realization that they have never truly engaged in independent cogitation, they are already inextricably enmeshed in a life they never consciously elected to live. The second fundamental truth is that for the vast majority of people, the allure of comfort significantly outweighs the pursuit of truth. Should you endeavor to present unvarnished reality to most individuals, they will not express gratitude. On the contrary, they will invariably recoil and reject your offering. This adverse reaction stems from the intrinsically addictive nature of comfort. It is a state characterized by its warmth, familiarity, and reassuring predictability. Truth, conversely, is frequently perceived as a cold, unappealing, and decidedly inconvenient entity. Nietzsche, with his keen observational prowess, consistently highlighted this phenomenon across various historical epochs. The human tendency to profess an affection for truth, while in actuality merely seeking affirmation and reassurance. People do not genuinely desire intellectual awakening. They crave emotional coddling. Consequently, they meticulously construct environments populated by facile explanations, saccharine platitudes, and readily digestible group-sanctioned opinions. This behavior isn't born of malice, but rather from an underlying current of fear. However, the inherent nature of truth remains impervious to your anxieties. It refuses to temper its stark revelations to accommodate your emotional sensibilities. It unflinchingly presents reality as it fundamentally is, not as you might wistfully desire it to be. And the majority of humanity, Nietzsche contended, lacks the fortitude to confront such unadulterated reality. Thus they opt for the seductive embrace of ignorance, the numbing balm of distraction, and the comforting illusion of fantasy, until an inevitable day arrives when truth violently shatters the fragile edifice of their carefully constructed, comfortable world. By that juncture, unfortunately, it is typically far too late for any meaningful course correction. The third undeniable reality is that the very experiences that inflict pain upon you are frequently the ones that illuminate your authentic character. Humanity, for the most part, instinctively recoils from pain as if it were a deadly toxin. Yet Nietzsche perceived pain as a unique kind of reflective surface, the sole mirror capable of accurately portraying who you fundamentally are. He famously declared that to exist is to suffer, and to truly persevere is to unearth profound significance within that suffering. What instills fear within you often reveals the objects of your deepest attachments. What utterly shatters you frequently exposes the aspects of your being you have consistently neglected. What you actively contend against divulges your self-perceived identity. Nevertheless, most individuals endeavor to silence the voice of pain rather than heed its crucial message. They medicate it into oblivion, assiduously avoid its presence, or distract themselves from its insistent demands. But pain, a persistent entity, does not simply dissipate. It patiently waits. It subtly intensifies. And eventually it compels an inescapable confrontation. Nietzsche did not advocate for an escape from pain. Instead, he championed the courageous act of walking directly into its embrace, for it is only through confronting adversity head-on that you can transcend your suffering and emerge as a more resilient, more formidable version of yourself. By the time most people finally grasp the profound truth that pain was not their adversary, they have already squandered years of their lives in a futile attempt to circumvent it. The fourth piercing observation is that the collective, the amorphous crowd is seldom correct, yet it is invariably vociferous. There exists an undeniable allure to being part of the crowd. It bestows a sense of identity, provides a perceived purpose, and offers the comforting illusion of certainty. You feel secure because everyone else seemingly subscribes to the same beliefs and ideologies. However, Nietzsche issued a stern caution. The crowd is not inherently wise. It is merely loud. It does not engage in critical thought. It reacts impulsively. It does not pose probing questions. It merely echoes prevailing sentiments. And the larger its aggregate, the more perilous its influence becomes. He penned the memorable lines. Insanity in individuals is something rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. A vast number of individuals belatedly come to understand that they constructed their entire existence upon the shaky foundation of approval from others who were just as disoriented as they were. They did not pursue truth. They pursued validation. They did not champion a cause or stand for something meaningful. They merely assimilated and blended in. And the inherent tragedy of this situation is profound. By the time they recognize the erroneous nature of the crowd's convictions, they have already irrevocably sacrificed their unique individuality in their fervent desire to belong. If your aspiration is to forge a life that is authentically your own, you will inevitably have to disappoint the crowd. And the majority of individuals, Nietzsche observed, lack the requisite courage to undertake such an act until their allotted time has irrevocably expired. The fifth profound insight reveals that kindness, when detached from inherent strength, renders one an inevitable target. You are likely indoctrinated with directives to be pleasant, to be courteous, to be amenable, and to be generous. However, Nietzsche did not extol the virtues of unthinking, indiscriminate kindness. He astutely recognized that without a foundation of inner strength, kindness degenerates into a debilitating weakness. This is because predators, by their very nature, do not respect kindness. They ruthlessly exploit it. Takers, those who seek to extract from others, do not cease their actions merely because you are generous. They are emboldened to take even more. The world in its stark reality does not reward softness or meekness. It rewards strategic thinking and assertive action. Nietzsche wrote with characteristic bluntness, "The weak are always forced to lie." The underlying reason for this assertion is clear. Without the backing of strength, you simply cannot afford the luxury of unvarnished honesty. You are compelled to suppress your legitimate needs, to conceal your personal boundaries, and to diminish the volume of your own voice, all under the guise of preserving peace. Yet peace achieved without a commensurate degree of power is not genuine tranquility. It is, in essence, a form of submission. The individual who embodies both kindness and strength is a transformative force, capable of profoundly impacting and changing lives. Conversely, the individual who possesses only kindness is frequently exploited, summarily discarded, and ultimately forgotten. And the tragic reality is that most people only assimilate this harsh lesson after enduring years of betrayal, not only by friends and family, but also, perhaps most poignantly, by their own acquiescent selves. You have now been exposed to 5 of Nietzsche's potent admonitions, 5 fundamental truths that individuals typically grasp only after they have already paid a significant, often irreparable price. However, this constitutes merely the preamble. The subsequent 4 truths delve into even more somber territory. They elucidate the underlying reasons why your discipline inexplicably wanes, why your subconscious shadow aspects perpetually undermine your efforts, and why individuals who profess support for you often withdraw it precisely when you begin to attain genuine success. The discourse becomes progressively more intimate, increasingly uncomfortable, and undeniably more authentic. If you genuinely believe you are prepared for such an unvarnished examination, let us proceed. The 6th truth, a critical distinction, states that discipline is not merely a manifestation of fleeting motivation. It is, fundamentally, an expression of self-respect. The majority of people relentlessly pursue motivation as if it were some magical key that unlocks all potential. They passively await the arrival of the perfect emotional state, the ideal set of circumstances, or the perfectly crafted inspirational quotation that will propel them forward. However, Nietzsche would undoubtedly dismiss such a notion with a derisive laugh, for he possessed a far more profound comprehension of human psychology. The individual who perpetually defers action, waiting for the elusive spark of motivation, has already, in essence, relinquished their inherent power and control. Self-control, as understood by Nietzsche, transcended mere relentless striving or punitive measures. Its essence lay in integrity. He posited that an individual's capacity to act, irrespective of their transient emotions, particularly when faced with arduous circumstances, represented the quintessential expression of self-reverence. Consider this phenomenon. You meticulously brush your teeth not because of a sudden burst of inspiration, but because it's intrinsically woven into your identity. You diligently uphold your personal boundaries, not because it's effortless, but because they hold profound significance for you. Discipline, therefore, is not contingent upon fluctuating moods. Rather, it finds its bedrock in profound meaning. When your actions are dictated by your immediate emotional state, you construct a life precariously perched on shifting sands. However, when your conduct is anchored in your core values, even on days fraught with difficulty, you forge yourself into an unwavering, trustworthy, and indomitable individual. A majority of people come to this realization only after enduring years of unfulfilled aspirations, squandered prospects, and acts of self-betrayal. They mistakenly perceive their struggle as a lack of motivation, when in actuality their core issue is a deficit of self-respect. The 7th profound insight reveals that people will offer their support until your progress begins to challenge their established identity. Everyone embraces the notion of your personal betterment, provided that your advancement doesn't eclipse their own achievements, and your development doesn't disrupt their comfort zones, their social standing, or their unspoken narratives. Nietzsche articulated this with brutal candor. He contended that while most individuals don't consciously desire your failure, they also don't genuinely wish for you to transcend the predefined role they have assigned to you. Why is this the case? Because your growth compels them to confront their own stagnation. Your successes starkly expose their rationalizations. Your personal metamorphosis disrupts the prevailing equilibrium. This is precisely why, when you begin to establish firm boundaries, pursue ambitious goals, or articulate your authentic truth, certain individuals will not celebrate your endeavors. Instead, they will create distance, they will mock your efforts, and they will abruptly cease to resonate with you. This reaction is not an indication that you are acting improperly. Rather, it signifies that you have ceased to diminish yourself for their convenience. Most individuals only grasp this reality after the dissolution of relationships they once believed would endure indefinitely. Yet those very relationships were predicated on a version of you that remains static, and that particular version no longer exists. The eighth profound insight warns that your unconscious self will inevitably undermine you if you choose to disregard it. Every individual possesses a shadow, that concealed aspect of the self, comprising the parts of you that you were conditioned not to reveal. Your anger, your shame, your envy, your self-centeredness. Nietzsche, much like Jung in later years, understood that the suppression of this shadow merely amplifies its power. The more vehemently you reject a facet of yourself, the greater control it surreptitiously exerts from behind the scenes. It insidiously infiltrates your decisions, colors your tone, and influences your desires. It whispers destructive thoughts precisely when things are progressing smoothly. It erupts impulsively just as you are on the precipice of attaining inner peace. People often mistakenly believe that being virtuous equates to being innocuous. However, Nietzsche recognized that true strength emanates from the integration of the shadow rather than its concealment. For an individual who is intimately acquainted with their own darkness cannot be controlled by it. Envision your shadow as a child confined to a basement. The longer it remains ignored, the louder its cries become, and the more extensive the damage it inflicts. But once it is acknowledged, heard, and comprehended, it ceases to be a monstrous entity. It transforms into your valuable ally. Most individuals fail to grasp this until they have irrevocably damaged something they cherished, realizing too late that it was not life that betrayed them, but rather the unacknowledged aspects of themselves they steadfastly refuse to confront. The ninth profound insight asserts that clear thinking is unattainable if your constant preoccupation is to appease everyone. One of life's most alluring traps is the tendency towards people-pleasing. It presents itself as kindness. It offers a sense of security. Yet Nietzsche perceived it for its true nature, a facade. When you elevate the expectations of others above your own intrinsic truth, you forfeit access to your own clarity. You meticulously second-guess every word you utter. You excessively scrutinize every decision you make. You dilute the potency of your inherent instincts. People-pleasing is not an act of generosity. It is fear cloaked in a deceptive guise. Fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of solitude. But here lies the profound tragedy. The more you strive to please others, the less they genuinely perceive you. Nietzsche believed that authentic self-knowledge necessitates the act of disappointing people, not out of malice, but out of absolute necessity, because your genuine, lived experience will invariably contradict someone else's preconceived notion of who you ought to be. A majority of people fail to recognize this until they one day survey their surroundings and ponder, why does no one truly know the real me? This is because you have inadvertently conditioned them to admire your performance rather than your authentic self. And by the time that truth finally demands to be acknowledged, the people in your orbit might not recognize it, or even more distressingly, they might harbor resentment towards it. You have now been exposed to 9 profound truths, each resonating like a silent cry from your future self, serving as a warning about the consequences of ignoring them. However, our exploration is not yet complete, for in the forthcoming 4 truths, we shall delve even deeper. We will examine why you might still experience a sense of emptiness, even after meticulously adhering to all perceived societal norms. We will discuss how attention is increasingly supplanting genuine meaning, and how Nietzsche viewed death not as an ultimate conclusion, but as a reflective mirror. The concluding segment will challenge you not merely to contemplate these ideas, but to initiate profound personal transformation. Let us proceed. The 10th profound truth posits that a sense of emptiness can still persist even after one has diligently performed all actions deemed correct. We are indoctrinated with the belief that if we meticulously fulfill all societal expectations, obtain the requisite degree, secure the coveted employment, find a life partner, and avoid any transgressions, then happiness will inevitably ensue. However, Nietzsche discerned the inherent hollowness concealed within these promises. He contended that the relentless pursuit of doing everything right often leads individuals not to profound joy, but to a quiet, pervasive despair. Why is this so? Because one can meticulously adhere to every rule prescribed by society and still find oneself living a life that embodies someone else's conception of meaning. And when, after years of arduous sacrifice, you finally arrive at that destination, you anticipate a profound sense of fulfillment. Yet what you often encounter is a haunting, persistent question. Why do I not feel complete? Nietzsche cautioned that this particular brand of existential emptiness arises from mistaking superficial structure for genuine substance, from substituting an inner authentic truth with external validation, and from complacently obeying preset expectations instead of courageously exploring one's deepest desires. Most individuals realize this lamentably late, when their life's edifice is already firmly constructed, when there is too much to dismantle. At this juncture, they either choose to numb the persistent ache or embark upon the daunting task of starting anew. But an alternative path exists. It involves ceasing to ask, "What should I do?" and commencing to inquire, "What is mine to do?" This is the true route out of the void. It does not necessitate greater effort, nor does it demand more success, but rather a deeper commitment to truth. The 11th profound truth states that genuine meaning is a rare commodity, and fleeting attention serves as a woefully inadequate substitute. We inhabit a world profoundly addicted to the act of being seen. Likes, views, shares. These metrics often masquerade as meaning. However, Nietzsche would contend that this is not authentic connection. It is a meticulously crafted performance. Attention is readily available and cheap. Genuine meaning, conversely, is sacred and precious. A prevalent error individuals commit involves relentlessly pursuing external acclaim while simultaneously neglecting their inner essence. Why does this pattern persist? The allure lies in its immediacy. It offers tangible results, provides immediate validation, yet it ultimately proves to be shallow. When the transient glow of public attention inevitably dissipates, what remains? Nietzsche proposed that true significance isn't derived from the sheer volume of spectators one attracts. Instead, it originates from the profound insights gained during moments of solitude. It springs from engaging in endeavors that resonate deeply with one's authentic nature. It stems from articulating sentiments that hold genuine weight, even if they initially meet with silence. A majority of individuals fail to grasp this fundamental concept until they've experienced widespread recognition, yet still feel an underlying sense of anonymity, or until they have received effusive praise, but continue to feel fundamentally overlooked. By the juncture they finally comprehend this truth, they have often constructed an artificial persona that they feel incapable of shedding, simultaneously having lost touch with the genuine self they barely knew. The 12th profound insight concerns death. Death, Nietzsche asserted, does not merely deprive, it illuminates. We instinctively perceive death as a pilferer. It confiscates our temporal existence. It seizes loved ones. It disrupts meticulously laid schemes. However, Nietzsche did not view death with apprehension. He regarded it as a potent clarifying instrument. For when one internalizes the certainty of mortality, one is compelled to confront what truly holds importance. He posed a provocative question. If you were condemned to relive this precise life repeatedly for all eternity, would you willingly consent? Most would find themselves unable to answer affirmatively, and therein lies the crux of the matter. Death, as Nietzsche elucidated, is not an adversary. It functions as a mirror. It systematically strips away superfluous distractions, convenient rationalizations, and detrimental procrastination. It interrogates, are you purposefully investing your time or merely squandering it? Are you experiencing profound affection or merely performing emotional gestures? Are you genuinely living or simply existing? Most individuals only awaken to these critical inquiries when confronted with profound loss, when faced with a life-altering diagnosis, or when time reveals itself not as an endless expanse, but as a rapidly closing aperture. By that point, the specter of a life unlived often becomes a more tormenting presence than the prospect of death itself. The 13th and final truth. Your journey to freedom will necessitate the forfeiture of every element that is inauthentic within your existence. This represents Nietzsche's ultimate and arguably most uncompromising revelation. He contended that to achieve genuine liberation, not merely in an external sense, but profoundly psychologically, one must dismantle every illusion that has historically provided a sense of security. This includes your superficial friendships, your habitual coping mechanisms, your acquired titles, and your pervasive need for external validation. Freedom, he declared, is not a gift passively received. It is an act of deliberate seizure, and the cost? Everything that lacks genuine substance. For authentic freedom is inherently terrifying. It demands standing resolutely in your personal truth. It involves the courage to decline when doing so risks disapproval. It signifies no longer needing to belong to external groups because you have finally discovered a profound sense of belonging within your own being. Most individuals merely dabble with the concept of freedom. They tentatively test its waters. But when the process of shedding begins, when the fabricated elements start to peel away, they often succumb to panic because the familiar, even if it is false, offers a perceived safety greater than the profound uncertainty of the unknown. Yet Nietzsche held the conviction that until you relinquish what is not genuinely yours, you will never truly uncover what is. And the majority of people, they only arrive at this realization after enduring years of quiet, simmering resentment. After countless years spent pondering, why do I feel like an alien in my own life? You have now been presented with 13 of the most challenging, yet ultimately liberating insights that individuals often grasp too late in their lives. And Nietzsche did not articulate these truths with the intention of inducing shame or fear. His purpose in sharing them was to ignite an awakening within you, because each one of these truths represents a pivotal juncture in your journey. To disregard them is to allow yourself to drift aimlessly. To embrace and embody them is to embark on a new beginning. And perhaps you are not yet prepared to fundamentally alter every aspect of your life. That is perfectly acceptable. Self-awareness invariably precedes meaningful action. However, if even a single one of these truths resonated deeply within you, disrupting your complacency, do not permit its impact to dissipate. Share in the comments section below which truth affected you most profoundly. Which one are you still actively resisting? And if this video resonated with you on a personal level, consider subscribing. We are actively cultivating a community for individuals who seek more than superficial advice. People who yearn to engage in deeper contemplation, to cultivate greater inner strength, and to finally live a life that is truly distinct. Welcome to Think See. You are not lagging behind. You are simply commencing your journey armed with the truth.